Hello, today I want to talk about data mining. Now, I do have some other videos out there on this topic. You can watch those videos by following these links right here. Today, I want to think about unpublished research in terms of anomaly detection, how that affects the data mining problem. I have said many times, embrace being wrong. Admit that you are, figure out why you're wrong, create a roadmap, and get better. That's how it works. I have some videos out there that are going to walk you through the process for doing this. You can watch those videos by following these links right here. In those videos, I say one of the things you should do is read academic research. Two papers here I want to highlight that I read recently. First one talks about investment teams. If you have an investment team that is comprised of solely members affiliated with one political party, Republican or Democrat, returns are worse, net outflows during the financial crisis. Teams that had a diverse mix of members affiliating with both Republicans and Democrats had better returns and positive inflows. Second paper there talks about kind of where and how you do your research. So if you're always going to some place that agrees with your prior belief, whether it's news or it is about a stock, you're bullish or you're bearish, your returns again are not as good as those people who are going to places where they don't necessarily agree with them. They actually want diverse opinions. They embrace being wrong. Now, these are both related to diversity. And I have a video out there where I talk about diversity and my experience as a Peace Corps volunteer. You can watch that by following this link right here. When it comes to these papers, you're going to see Tstat data helps you understand how significant the data you're looking at is. What you see is they'll say, hey, if my Tstat is 1.96 or better, I have a 95% chance of believing what the data is telling me. If it's 2.575 or better, I have a 99% chance of believing what the data tells me. The problem is that it's only valid for one test, and we're doing all kinds of tests. We're testing for multiple anomalies. So if you do one test, yeah, you have a 5% chance of it being a fluke, even though it says it's significant. If you do 5 tests, that probability of fluke jumps up to 23. If you do 50 tests, it jumps up to 92% that you found something that really isn't valid. In fact, we have kind of a generic formula for making that determination. Now, in this particular paper here, authors looked at, hey, we said, if we go back to the prior research, we see 447 anomalies. But if we actually kind of correct for the fact that we tested for 447, it wasn't just one time, we find that, hey, there's only 11 of these that are still statistically significant. That is problematic to say the least. Now, what I want to think about is published papers versus unpublished research. And this is absolutely happening. There are people out there who publish these papers and they're testing all kinds of things, but they're only going to publish the papers that have something of interest. They're not going to say, hey, I did all these tests and it was completely worthless. And I would argue that the unpublished research is much greater than the published research. If we look at the published research we mentioned prior, we see that there is a 97.54% chance of a type 1 error, a false positive. So again, we only saw 11 of the 447 remaining significant after they corrected for the number of tests we're doing. I kind of created some numbers here, but I'm going to argue that of the unpublished papers, there probably is something there that didn't look significant that is, but that's going to be pretty infrequent. I'm going to argue this somewhere around 1.25% of the time that something really is valid, but isn't. But in general, lots of unpublished research out there that's completely nonsense. Now, going back to the confidence levels here, these authors are arguing that these T-scores are nonsense, and on a 95% confidence level, we should be bumping that up to 3, which seems pretty high, but that makes a lot of sense. They don't mention kind of other numbers in terms of other confidence levels. Now, if we go back to the papers, that the academic papers, we saw 447 different tests out there. That gives me a probability of 99.999999989% chance of there being a fluke out there. So it's not surprising that when they made some corrections there, they saw that a lot of these things didn't make sense. So this clearly is not right. But we also say, hey, there's probably, all this other research out there that's been done that just never was published. I'm arguing it's probably 4,500 anomalies tested, and only 447 seemed okay. But the whole point here is that basically have a 100% chance of there being a fluke when you're testing, over 4,000 different anomalies. So my whole argument for this whole video is that these researchers should be publishing their unpublished research. So yeah, they put the full paper out there when it's something interesting, but once every 5 years, once every 10 years, they should say, hey, and by the way, I had those 5 papers where I found something, but I did these 50 tests where I found nothing. And I'm just going to kind of clue you in on what I looked at and what was complete nonsense, at least from that statistical point of view. I really, really wish these researchers would do that. I think it would be beneficial to all involved from an academic standpoint and from a practitioner standpoint. That's it for today. I hope that's meaningful to you. I think it's a huge, important point. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Brian Kozlowski, and happy trading out there.